Hi, Tommy Heffernan, veterinary consultant here. I love creating content. That might be nothing new. So I'm going to put some videos together over the coming months with an idea of concepts worth considering. It's brought to you with Precision Microbes. For more on Precision Microbes, check out www.precisionmicrobes.com. I'm going to look at some ideas and things that I'm learning about, throw those concepts out and see are they worth considering. Today's a very general one, but I think it's a really important one. It's around the immune system, but also the immune system and gut health. When we think about the immune system, what is it? Well, it's our ability to fight infections, fight pathogens. It can be involved in allergic responses. In some cases, we can have autoimmune diseases. But our immune system's huge in animal health. When we think about immunity, we think about its purpose, maybe fighting infections and pathogens, and they can be viruses, bacteria, and other fungi. What we don't often think about, and probably something I would have thought a lot about as a vet, would have been classing most viruses and bacteria in the pathogens category. But actually, if you look at its percentage, pathogens make up about 0.01% of actual microorganisms. Where when we look at commensals and beneficial bacteria, they make up 99.9% of all our microorganisms in our animals, our cells, and our environments. So when we think about immune system, there's two things we need to think about. And this is across animals and humans. We've got our innate immune system, and then we've got our adaptive immune system. And our innate immune system is sort of a primitive immune system, and it's important when we talk about gut health later on. It's a very non-specific response, so it's sort of and it can actually start with physical barriers like skin. It can be liquids like our stomach acid, even our eyes have that tears. It creates a protective barrier, and it also involves the first part of our immune system, what are our white blood cells. So there's a number of white blood cells that are involved in the innate, non-specific immune response, and that's a very inflammatory response. So it's a quick-acting response that occurs quickly, and I suppose it's nature's way of making a quick non-specific response to some invading pathogens or maybe antigens. What's interesting as well is when we look at the adaptive immune system, and this is, I like to think about this like a memory system. So this is recognizing pathogens. It's a more anti-inflammatory reaction, and again there's a whole range of white blood cells we look at involved in the adaptive immune system. When we look at, I suppose, factors that affect immunity, the innate or adaptive immunity, I always talk about being brilliant at the basics when it comes to animal health, because there's a couple of key things. So I'm a big fan of biological and behavioral optimization, so understanding what the animal's needs are and then looking at the situation they're in and seeing what stressors are there. But stress has a big impact on immunity, so we can have short-term stress. Stress is a natural response, you know, when if we look at our own evolution, running from maybe that danger in the jungle, that was a flight or fight response. But what we see in humans and animals now is a lot of low-grade inflammation related to stress. So stress over a period of time has an impact on our immune system and can have an impact on the gut immune system as well. Diet has a massive impact on immunity, and there's a whole range of factors there across different animal species. The environment that animals are in. So animals have needs, and if weather changes, the environment can have a big impact. Genetics can play a role, so there's lots of factors that can affect, I suppose, our immune system. But these have to be right. They're the kind of key things I will think about as a vet when I look at animal health. Because ultimately, when we think about health, we think about our ability to fight infectious disease. And I bring a very important but simple concept that I call the seesaw principle, because I like naming things. And if I just get my markers right here, it's this: when we look at any infectious disease or pathogens, we're trying to do two things. We're trying to increase immunity, and we're trying to drive down infection pressure, so the amount or exposure to pathogens that we have. And that's really simple terms. So when we think about driving down pathogen load or exposure, well, that's removing diseased animals, that's good hygiene, all those sort of things to reduce down the risk of exposure. On the other side, on immunity, there's a number of factors here. These being the key basics. We also know vaccinations are used. They actually help that stimulation of immunity. So if we think about what vaccines are doing, they're actually stimulating the adaptive immune response or that memory. So when the animal sees that pathogen again, they have a memory, and there's a chain of events that affect T and B cells that will lead to a better immune response. But the big factors I always find are the basics when we look at immunity. If we think about young animals that are born immunonaive with an innate immune system, they get a lot of their antibodies or immunity from their mothers through the first milk or colostrum. So this is a very basic concept, but it's a really important thing when we look at immunity. Why this story? Well, I think it's important when we think about the immune system is key for animals and animal health. And then when we look at the gut and immunity, and greater than 70% of the immune system's in the gut. Why? Well, I suppose I should have said that, well, if greater than 70% of the immune system's in the gut, well then gut health is really important for overall immune health. And I've been learning about that for the last probably 2 or 3 years now as well. But why is there so much of our immune system in the gut? Well, if we think about the digestive system, starting in the oral, in the mouth, and going all the way down to the very end, it's a huge surface area. So it's exposed to external environments, digested, all our nasal passages, our ears, everything actually feeds into the oral cavity and into the gut. So there is a lot of external pathogens and challenges coming into the gut. And because of that large surface area, you need a lot of immune cells. So when we look at the gut, we talk about the GALT, or the gut-associated lymphoid tissue. And this is, I suppose, just makes up our lymph system, our white blood cells, and all the protective immune system within and around the digestive tract. If we go in and we actually look into the tube of the gut, down to the villi, down to a cellular level, and we understand that, so much of our digestive tract has so many immune cells. If the digest is here, and these are the immune cells, so much of our immune system is based here, both innate and adaptive. So the innate is the primary defense mechanism. So if we've got good digestive health and good gut regulation, well then we've got a good immune regulation in the gut. And actually, the beneficial bacteria and beneficial microorganisms in the gut play a key role in the immunity story. And they do this by a couple of ways. I suppose they're a signaling system for the immune system. Because of the large surface area that's in the digestive tract, actually the beneficial microorganisms are actually the first signaling system when we have an inflammatory or an invasion by a pathogen to send signals to the immune system. Those signals will end up setting up a chain of events, which in acute inflammation is really important. They also regulate some of the protection, the innate protection, which is the mucus layer that protects the lining of the cells in the gut. They're also involved with immune modulation and regulation of the inflammatory processes in the gut. So your gut microbiome and your beneficial microorganisms in your gut are actually key to the immunity story. So anything that disrupts the gut microbiome, well, is going to have a massive impact. And again, diet is a key one. Stress is massive. So when our animals have stress, we get the production of cortisol, and cortisol often ends up in the digestive tract as an end result of stress, and that impacts the flora in the gut. It can have a negative impact on the microbiota or the gut flora here, and it can also have an impact on the immune system. So we want a healthy gut. The healthier the digestive system, the more we're going to have a more regulated immune system. What happens when we have challenges in the digestive tract? When we have acute diarrheas and disruption and damage, well, that can have a huge impact on immunity. We see that in calves that have diarrhea. They're 8 to 9, 10 times more likely to subsequently get pneumonia because of the impact of the digestion and the nutrients being absorbed, but also that immune system. The gut immune system is also linked through our lymphatic system and blood to other organs. It's, we have a direct link between the brain and the gut. So when we have disruption in the gut, we have severe disruption, and we often talk about leaky gut. And essentially, when we look at leaky gut, it's often the gut microbiota is disrupted, the nice cell integrity that we normally see is disrupted, and we get leakage, and we get less mucus production here protecting. We get more invasion and translocation of pathogens. So we get a disruption, so we get more harmful pathogens in here, and we get the end results, the byproducts of those pathogens causing translocation and causing over-immune stimulation. That over-immune stimulation for a long period of time is what we call chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation in the digestive tract can be detrimental from a gut health perspective, but it also, because the interlinked nature of our immune system, can have a massive impact on overall immunity. And Chronic leaky gut is something we see in animal species. In humans, it's a huge challenge, and we've seen that if you look at some of the data around probably COVID-19 and comorbidities. A lot of it can be actually linked back to poor metabolic and gut health. So this is a really important area to understand. It's important to understand that we're aiming for healthy digestive tract, good gut health. A healthy microflora in our digestive tracts will lead to more regulation, better immunity, and I think it is the core. And the reason it's so important is so much of our immune system is based in the gut. Our immune system is really important. So that's a little bit today on concepts worth considering. Really simple, hopefully, overview of the immune system, the different types of immunity, why these are the basics to get right in animal health, and why gut health is really important to overall animal health and immunity. That's it for me, Tommy Heffernan, veterinary consultant. Concepts worth considering.